Okay, so let me give a brief introduction for Anita Sarkar. Currently, she is director in conversational AI technology at Ellie, and prior to that, she was working at a fintech startup named Stratified, and had also worked at Fortune 500 companies such as Intel, Yahoo, and Bank of America. As a scholar herself, Anita holds master's degree in computer science from Indian Institute of Technology, broadly known as IIT Delhi, and MBA from Duke University. And we have another speaker, Hardi Desai, who is experienced vision industrial researcher and currently working as machine learning developer at SAS. Previously, she had worked with Conduent Labs, and she holds master's degree in electrical engineering at NC State University with specialization in computer vision and machine learning. Okay, so with that, let's start our presentation of conversational AI with Anita Sarkar. Let me share my screen.
It's Dhwani, I can bring it up if that's okay. Let's see if I cannot share, then please back me up. Let me know if you see this.
Sure.
And I will try to go into presentation mode. Let me see that works.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It is a pleasure chatting with you and meeting Hardi and meeting others on this forum here. It is really kudos to you all to take the time. I know all of you are busy professionals and taking the time and hosting these chat sessions. This is really good. So thank you. I'm very happy to be here. So I will share today, so many of you are already experts in the machine learning and data science fields. I will share more from an industry, practitioner view about what it takes for us to be using some of these emerging technologies in the industry. And I'll talk a little bit about just to level set around the conversational AI. It's not foreign for anyone. All of you are familiar with the popular virtual assistants of today. So if you look at where this journey, the popular journey started around 2011. So it's almost more than 10 years now, with Siri first introducing in the 4S versions. And where it has come now is I was looking at the geographical dispersion of how much these technologies are available in different geographies, how much localization has been done. And I was just looking, I am originally from India, and I was looking at all the different languages this is available now for the in India also. So the amount of localization that's happened there. And now Alexa, since it started in 2013, I think this has also become so commonplace. All of us have used in some way or the other. And again, in this, there is so much of localization and globalization that has been happening. So it's very amazing. It's not foreign to anyone to see these virtual assistants. Let's see what happened here. Okay. For some reason, it's not clicking through. Okay. And I was looking at, what are some things that, this is more for fun, like shopping lists, which used to be refrigerator lists on the refrigerator. Now Alexa manages it all the time. So it's gotten so much into our daily lives. There is also, Alexa somehow thinks, I may like morning bhajans and has morning bhajans options for me. Okay, now fast forward and bringing this into the financial services side. Erica was launched in 2018 by Bank of America. At that time, actually, I was with Bank of America. I was not working exactly for that team, but I was in the digital banking space there, and I've seen firsthand, how effectively this has been launched and how much this has been embraced adopted by people. And there are different transactions that you can do. There are proactive insights that are provided. So all with the goal of helping the customers make better financial decisions and be very with the customer at the right place at the right time. And what we have seen over this last couple of pandemic years, this adoption has even increased further. So we can say, this technology is almost here to stay. It has already come into our lives, and more we will see this continuing. Now, some of the foundational elements, it is very interesting. So my career started with a computer science degree. And then, of course, I also did the MBA, where we do a little bit more of the management and the psychology side of things. And when I studied NLP, it was really this integration of different things, this intersection of computer science, human language, AI, all of that makes it very, very interesting. So when we say natural language processing, it consists of two different things, the understanding part and the language generation part. And very close to this is also the automatic speech recognition, where you can take the digital signals that comes on the phone and generates to text. So these are all the core components that go into what we say as the conversational AI, right? And when we start designing any of these platforms, these are some of the very key components. What does the user want? What is the user saying? The utterance. Then we say it's a bot, but actually it is a combination of different models, a lot that goes on to understand what the user says, the NLU part, right? What is the intent of the consumer, and what is he looking for? So I want to know my savings account balance. So they want to see the balance of what? The savings account. And then you can give the response as it is. So the bot, although we think of it as one entity, it is really a combination of different models here. And Dhwani, I'm going to try to go fast so I leave enough time for our fireside. So please do not hesitate to give me a time check if I'm cutting too close. Okay.
Sure.
So the success of any of these AI-based platforms is, taking the real-world interactions in this conversational AI scope. It is the conversations, the chat, or the voice calls, and then we need to do this human plus machine stage, where we take this, we label them, and we make sure that we are labeling this right, and there is sufficient data labeled so that we can train the model accordingly. And then we put this in production, but continuously you have to do this cycle. So this is a very important cycle. Often what happens in industry, we focus on the initial development, but it is very critical for the success to know what is that repeating process that has to happen to keep this effective. So that is why I just wanted to call this out here. The other thing I wanted to just highlight for this group is we are technologists. We come from the interesting emerging technology space, but to again put a solution out for customers, there are different teams that need to play. It's a team sport. It's not like one person developing any of these things. So the different teams that get involved, first is the product and customer experience. That's at the center of how can we help the customer better, right? So this is typically the team that will even decide what is our brand persona. For example, when I talk to Alexa, especially when my son talks to Alexa, he wants Alexa to tell him jokes. But in the banking situation, we see when people are talking to the bank, they're really not here to hear a joke, right? They're here for more financial guidance or some problem they're having. And so the persona can change based on what the real customer interactions are, the context. Then the attention to the customer sentiment and monitoring are the customers using the interface. Typically, all of these customer experience and product kind of things are done in one of the teams. Then there is the entire data and data science work, where how do you gather all the customer utterances and how do you map to those to the different kinds of interactions. So for example, when you take about NLP, two very similar sentences, how can I order checks versus was my check deposit? Very different interactions with the bot, right? So managing through those. So selecting the right models, the training those models, monitoring the performance. So all of this usually come under a data science umbrella. Then there is the engineering team that would usually provide all the platforms, the various integrations. So within the bank, you can imagine there are multiple systems where all the customer data is stored, and based on what the customer is asking, which data to get and which data can be brought in together to give some more proactive guidance to the customer. So a lot of integrations that happen. And then there's, of course, the risk and compliance. We take it very, very seriously to make sure customer data is always protected. There's already privacy is ensured, and that we are giving the correct information. We never want to misguide the customer, right? So there's that risk and compliance oversight. So all in all, you know, it's a lot of teams involved. It's a team sport, like I said, and the success depends on making sure the right structure is built, the right handshakes are done throughout the process to make this successful.
Anita, just one thing. We have 3 minutes left.
Sure.
For this.
Sure. So I wanted to touch upon this a little bit about, you know, the NLP timeline and the ecosystem effect. Is NLP is not brand new, you know, in some form and all. It has existed for a long time. But what has really changed right now, you know, what, again, any technology in isolation does not provide the maximum value. It is the ecosystem, and the ecosystem comes together is when it provides the maximum value. And right now we are seeing these very fast processors. We are seeing totally integrated platforms, which is making it possible for organizations big and small to use this more effectively. And the industry paradigm is also more and more changing towards, you know, how can we democratize AI? How can we make it usable by more and more companies and more people? And how can we make the models easily available and leave it to the users to really customize it based on their use cases and their data? So these are some of those platforms, and if you go to the sites, you'll see how much effort is going towards that platform paradigm to make it more easy for companies to use. Very quickly here, I will share a little bit. I like to see this, you know, with the Gartner hype cycle. If you look at this, chatbots, you know, initially they were at the peak in 2019. It was at the peak. Over the last 2 years, they have come to this trough. What this means is, as people start using things, they realize what's working, what's not, and then it gets to a happy medium. And that steady state is where we always want to go to. Same with AI cloud services. This 2 years back, it was just beginning. Right now, it is getting more towards that steady state. If you see like speech recognition here, you'll see it is already in the steady state. This is the steady state phase of things. I'll call out a couple things and we'll then move on. One is, you know, responsible AI model ops. That is still in this increasing side of the curve, you know, the more work to happen here. Tech investments in financial services, I'm not going in too much detail, but if you see more of these companies are focusing on AI, and especially for the customer and user experience side of things. I will leave you all with, you know, we talked about tech journey a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about my journey. And I started off after my undergrad studies, you know, I started off in a company called C-Dot, working in the telecom space. So software engineering, pure software engineering, telecom protocol stacks. And that was the time of 3G systems. Now we are at 5G, so we've come a long way. Along the way, I moved from, you know, managing from hands-on code writing to program management. And I worked for some time in the contact center technology space where, you know, the first voice recognition systems and all were built and used. And when we moved to Charlotte, you know, earlier when I was working at Intel and Yahoo, I was in California. So when we moved to Charlotte for, you know, personal reasons, I started moving and working in financial services. I worked at Bank of America in the mobile banking space, digital banking, and right now I'm here at Stratified. Then I worked at Stratified and now at Ally. So along the way, I have 2 beautiful kids. The reason I put this is I like to see all of us, our lives, it's in multiple dimensions. Each of us have multiple dimensions. I look forward to where we can make it possible for us to balance our work and our life and enjoy both. I love my job very much, but I also love my kids, and I always look for that balance to make that a happy combo. One thing that has been a constant, what I've seen, some things happen by chance, but then also the net results are also the result of how I choose to respond to those situations. And I'll leave you with the space we are in this very, very fast evolving tech space. Two things are very critical. One is, this continuous learning and also collaboration. With that, I will hand off to you, Dhwani, for the next part.
Sure. That was amazing, Anita. We really appreciate your presentation. And I think you need to stop your screen
I
share.
need to stop sharing. Let me see. Yes. Okay, did it stop sharing? Because I can see both of you. Okay, perfect.
Yes. Okay, so let's begin the fun part and our fireside chat. So, okay, let me start with Anita. That, of course, you talked about your journey, but like, what was like the most favorite part of your journey, and what did you like the most to be an individual contributor in initial stage of your career, or now to be the face of your organization?
And thank you for that beautiful question, Dhwani. And it's going to sound cliche, but I'll tell you, I enjoyed each part of the journey. So what I like is anytime the job is challenging, anytime, I feel that I can contribute, but I can also learn something new. When I get to a steady state, when I'm very comfortable with something, I get bored. So when I was a software developer, I had lot of lot of experience with writing code and troubleshooting. That gave me a lot of thrills. Right now in this role, now the challenges and the thrills are different, right? Right now my focus is about how do I get the best team in place, how do I make things easy for the team, how do I build partnerships with the other teams. So those are problems very different from software development, but I'll tell you, it uses some of the same muscles of thinking and patience and teamwork all the way through. So I've enjoyed the journey. Many times things have just happened by chance, like when I moved from hands-on software to project management. It was really by chance, but it was a different thing to learn. So I really enjoyed that.
Sure. I think the key is to just be in the moment and grab your opportunities
Yeah,
further and further.
yeah, it's guaranteed you're going to learn from every experience, and it comes back later, even when we don't realize or expect it.
Right. Okay, sure. Okay, so my next question is for Hardi. So let's get to know her a little more. By
So, Dhwani, before you ask me the question, I'll like to thank Anita for the wonderful presentation, and I'd like to highlight a couple of things which I really appreciate what she discussed. Some of it happens by chance, and some of things happen by choice. I think it's a great motto, which all of us should keep in mind. And I would also like to thank her for highlighting, sharing her kids with us. I really I'm glad that you had those photos in the slide deck, because life is not just about work. Life as a whole has a lot of different components, and thank you for bringing this out. And since this is like a woman in data science based fireside chat, like for a woman, a lot of things, there is always this dilemma of career versus family. And thank you for bringing this out on this platform, that both of them, you can love both of them, both could be equally important, and everything could be managed. So thank
right.
you, Anita.
I'm glad that that resonated. And sometimes it's not easy, but we all have to strive for that.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Thanks, Hardi. Let me ask you this, that how did your journey look like, and how hard it was for you to transition from electronics background to kind of computer sciencey background where you need to code every day. And of course it was like machine learning and data science, but how hard that was it daunting for you to code initially and crack the interview? And tell me
Yeah,
more.
so I'll give you a little bit more background on myself. My undergrad was in electronics and telecommunication, a lot towards electrical side, and during my masters also I was a student of the ECE department. I had not started my masters with an intent to be in the software industry or a computer science software person, but the intent was that, I enjoy image processing and I want to do something around it. And it turned out that computer vision, deep learning, machine learning was the next budding thing during that time as I started. And as a part of my coursework, I gradually started getting involved in those activities. My master's at NC State has been instrumental in, bringing me where I am currently in terms of my work life. And the thing is that learning was fun. It was a gradual process. It was part of my masters. There were days when, I would say start something like, oh, I can finish off this assignment and study about this at say around 10 p.m. I would start thinking to do it by in couple of hours, and I'll be up the entire night. And it at around 7 a.m. when the sun would come out from, I'll see that spark of sunlight from my window, I'll realize, oh, the entire night has passed. So
Right.
coding it, learning it, it was always a fun thing because I used to enjoy it. And as Anita said, right, like when you have challenges, you enjoy it, you have something new to learn too, which is all fun part. The not fun part is actually basing trying to make your position in an industry where they have a very set structure, especially the interview ones. Like initially, it was very daunting to go to an interview process where they would start questioning you about certain software engineering skills because they were never per se part of my learning curve. I was not a software science undergrad student or maybe even a grad student. So it was I felt it intimidating, to be frank. But with 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 that thing, nothing is impossible. So I did end up, doing things like lead code, which is pretty much a standard in this industry. Uh, and I would also like to highlight the fact that I have also been lucky enough to be interviewed by people who did understand my background and tried to judge me on the things where I could show them that, hey, I'm an equally good software engineer. Like every time doing what you need, like, the interview process, they tweaked it enough. They so it's the while I say that initially the interview process was daunting, and I would also like to highlight the fact that, companies today, the hiring managers today, they are understanding this gap between especially a data scientist and a software engineer, and they are trying to bridge it even during the interview process.
Right. Yeah, that very well said, Hardi. Even I have electronics background, and it was pretty daunting initially. But if you are, I think it is matter of curiosity rather than your fears. I think if you are passionate enough about something, no matter what, you will definitely achieve it. And yeah, very good point about the software engineering part. And of course, few companies has a policy, we cannot change it. But after getting into the company, what is like major differences in the software engineering as well as data science field? How do process really differs in your opinions? It is question to you both.
Anita, you want to take it first?
Sure, I will take it from another aspect also. So, more and more we'll see the convergence of the different fields, right? And right now, when I'm trying to build the teams, I'm definitely looking for some skill sets, but I'm looking for that first attitude about who is open to learning, who enjoys that learning process, right? And then it is also to the hiring managers, definitely. And I'm sure this sentiment many of my peers will echo, that there is so much demand for talent, that we can't expect everything exactly as we need to be available right away. So we as hiring managers need to have a commitment for hiring good talent, but also providing the opportunities for cross training internally, for providing them opportunities to learn what's needed. So what I'm seeing that even I always like to go and refresh my skills, if you may. So I did a certificate recently, and I picked a combination of subjects, so I could do some of the latest in data science, some of the latest in, say, Python programming, to get a feel for it. And I think these opportunities help the candidates, right? And when they are in the job itself, I would suggest for anyone, raise your hands. I think most importantly, the hiring managers, sometimes they're busy, or they may not always get around to asking you individually, but if you raise your hand that I want to learn this so and so thing, more often than not they will be supportive.
Yeah. And Dhwani, to your question, I'll answer it in a bit different way, as an everyday perspective way. Like, as we work on projects, uh, per se, a lot of software engineering tasks have a well-defined methodology. Like the software industry, although it has been existing for, I won't say we could say it for about 20 to 30 years. It has a very well established methodology to things. So if you go for any kind of a software engineering task to someone who is a skilled software engineer, he or she might be able to say that, hey, I can do it in 5 days, and they can actually get an output in 5 days. But when you say about data science or a machine learning model, I would have, as a data scientist or a machine learning developer, that, okay, this is the data set, and then I have 5 different algorithms which I could possibly try. Out of these, maybe these two seem to be more relevant given how the data is, but I don't know the outcome. So to a project manager, I need to, when they are asking you for a deadline, I might try to give, like, yeah, I can do, what I can promise is I can develop and make the model running in, say, 5 days or 10 days. But how the model what would be the output? Would it be according to what the business is required, is totally not something into my hands. And that's a huge difference between the software industry and especially the data science machine learning industry. And I feel like more and more project managers need to be aware about it as they're planning for the projects for the company.
Yes, that's correct. Like we as data scientists, we need to first, organize the data, or maybe just collecting the data and cleaning it up is a task rather than just building the machine learning model. And by the time we get the output of the model, it is like we need to again go back to data and make changes, and that cycle goes on. So it is a little different than the software engineering. We do not get the expected output that we want. We may or may not. There is always back and forth with the business. So yeah, completely with you, Hardi.
And it's so this is about the model, like for a given analytics life cycle, as Anita already went through her slide deck. The model development part, which seems like a, it's I would frankly say it's quite hyped in the industry, that how well you can develop it. Like, oh, I'm getting a 95% accuracy on, say, some XYZ data set, and maybe I can do it in the real world data set. That's not how it works, because real world data sets are way more challenging. And development is one aspect, but deploying it, especially if you want something in real time, that's a totally different challenge on its own, which is truly an integration between good software engineering skills and a good machine learning or data science based skills for an individual. And in my opinion, I still feel the industry, especially with respect to deployment, everyone is still learning. People are still trying to figure out how to how to make things optimize, how to make best use of the hardware, what's present for a given model. Because think machine learning going to deep learning, we require things like GPU. People are trying to optimize it. So that's a totally different ball game, which still the industry is struggling with.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Okay. So my next question is uh, to Anita, and maybe Hardi can also answer it. But with your experience, what advice you would have given to your younger self while getting into the tech or in general to the data science field?
Sure. So I will tell you from the entering into tech, my dad was a civil engineer, and I would say he was so supportive that I never faced some of the barriers. I didn't even know there were barriers, honestly. And so that entry was very smooth, very easy. I think that was the good part. The challenges were later as I was trying to balance my work and my personal life. And over there, I think I have been very conservative at times. So the advice I would give to my younger self is, don't underestimate yourself. So I'll give you an example. I was talking, right? We moved from Los Angeles to Charlotte. So when we did that change, at that time I was already a program manager at Yahoo, but I moved to Charlotte. So first of all, new city. I had a new baby, and then I had the financial services was a totally different industry. So I kind of chickened out and I said, oh, I cannot lead programs. I'm just going to go and do a business analyst role and learn things again. But very soon, within a month, I was already doing those other program manager roles. But my compensation did not catch up as quickly. So it's a lesson learned. Do not underestimate yourself. Feel free to stretch your boundaries.
Yeah, and I think like Anita's story, somewhere even I have a very similar experience, and I totally resonate with her in the fact that you need to believe in your own goals. That's when you'll be able to achieve it. uh, Something what happened with me was, I since I was from a totally different background, and I was very clear that I want an internship or a full-time job in the data science field, especially machine learning. And I had everyone around me telling me that, hey, if you need an internship, just apply for software ones, and it would be easier to get because there are way more opportunities compared to this one. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And it turned out that everyone around me except me has an internship. Now, thinking back today, I would say my younger self that, hey, it's okay, that there's not a problem. Like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine in future. But during that time, it was very not a comfortable situation to be in when all your classmates and everyone has something going on and you are there like, was it too much? Like, did I push myself way too much on not trying to, be open to different ideas? And eventually, it did turn out that, today, thankfully, I'm at a workplace where I like to work, where I like the work I do. So it's basically believing in your own goals. When that's when you'll be able to achieve it.
Right. I completely agree with you. I was in the same boat during my internship as well as my full-time job. It was always easier to get into software engineering roles, but you know, just believe in yourself and keep doing what you like. Yeah. So I think if you don't have it, if you're not enough motivated to do your work, you won't enjoy it. So yeah, that's the key, I guess. Okay, and one more question from my end, then we can begin taking question from audiences. So audience, please feel free to add your question in the chat. Okay, so my last question is for both of you that what does your day look like and what is your favorite part of the day?
You want to start, Hardi?
Oh, I'm sure I can start it. So I work at the AI Center of Excellence team at SAS as a senior associate machine learning developer. My role is a mix between the research as well as working with customers. So I have a customer facing role. So during my day, I would rather answer it during the week. I at least have one or two pre-sales activities where we are trying to talk through customers, trying to understand what challenges are they facing in their day-to-day life. Like, I was talking with a leading manufacturer company, what challenges they face during the manufacturing unit. I had a conversation with a leading car manufacturer company on what challenges they face with respect to uh, when as they producing as they produce cars and as they are trying to sell the cars, not just the produce trying to manufacture it. So there are a lot of interesting conversations which are sometimes like, you don't even know that some industry how it's actually doing solving their problems and what problems they are facing. So I would say that is probably one of the most interesting thing I like about my job, because I have been involved in like a lot of pre-sales activities. My typical day is a blend of both coding, researching, as well as talking through customers. I am involved directly, talking with them directly, and giving them updates on where we stand, where the project is, and with my team I have also been involved in, I do the planning for my own for the projects which I am supposed to work on. I plan it out on my own, so it's me who decides that, okay, this is the time I want for model development, and this is the point time I want for, say, model testing and deployment. So my day-to-day life involves definitely coding and solving the problems I'm involved in, but also trying to gather new and new problems and how they could be solved off.
That sounds
Great.
very exciting, Hardi. All the different types of customers you get to work with, and see, that sounds very exciting. Yeah. So from my point of view, I get to work on my two favorite topics, working on the technology and the people side. So that is what is very interesting to me. I like to cover both. And a typical day could range anywhere from, calls around planning even quarters out, or, planning even next week's release and helping solve problems. So a big portion of my job is around, the team structure and building the team so that they can be successful. So that holds a lot of takes a lot of prominence in my role. Understanding what are the blockers for the team, what can I look to help the team to increase their efficiency or solve their problems, and so there's always creative thinking involved in how can we do better and make the product better for the customers.
Okay. Yeah, it is always mix of both. If you don't understand the problem, you won't understand what you want to create. And if you don't know that, like, how would you manage to get the data first on the first place? So of course, that's a circle for sure. Okay. So let's begin the questions from the audience. Uh, this one is from Akhil. I think Anita already answered it, but let me.
I did not realize you would take those calls. So I was answering them as we were going. But
Oh,
feel
okay.
free to, yeah.
Yeah. So Akhil says, I'm curious, which data scientist do you admire the most? Is there anyone in particular that inspires you?
So I know Anita
Yeah,
answered on
Hardi.
the yeah.
Yeah.
Anita has given an excellent example of Andrew Ng. Like, I would say his Stanford machine learning course, which which he started on Coursera, is something I don't know how many people would have entered into the industry just because of that course. Uh, so he's an excellent example. There have been like a lot of good researchers and software engineers, a blend of both in this area. Someone whom even I look up to is Sumit Chintala. I'm not sure if I'm spelling him correctly or not. So he's basically currently working in Facebook Meta, and he also has a quite an interesting journey how so he did his undergrad back in India, and when he was trying to apply for universities here, he basically was late, and he
Oh,
realized, oh, I cannot apply to few top universities because I'm already late in the application cycle. And that's when he saw that NYU, New York University, has an opening, And he applied there because he was like, okay, at least the deadline has not passed here. He got an opportunity to work with Jan LeCun, who was the person who invented or made the convolutional neural networks. And from there, if you look at his journey, he was a software engineer who turned into a data scientist and one of the key creators, one of the people who was behind the PyTorch. So, like, everyone has their own journey, but looking at his journey from where he started, and as Anita already mentions, a lot of it is chance and a lot of it is choice. I'm sure that him missing the deadline was something not a pleasant experience for him, but it turned out that in the long run he got to work with some of the best minds in this area, and today things have been really good for him.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice, Hardi. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that
Dhwani,
motto
do
is
you have any
applicable to.
favorites? I know you are very passionate about the field too. I know you are hosting the questions, so I'm being unconventional here. But if you have any favorites, we would love to hear.
Yeah, and I think Andrew Ng is the one who is, I feel, is god of of machine learning and data science. So I think I always look, and he makes. I have done one course for that, for his course in deeplearning.ai, the forum that he has. He makes explanation little easier for me to understand and little practical as well. So I think he is really good professor. You know, he has built amazing course on ML and machine learning. Yeah, for sure.
And I agree very much with Hardi that he has made it so accessible, right? Through Coursera and all that, very reasonably priced, right? So that accessibility and encouraging more in the field is great. I'll tell you a couple of other things that I have admired. So he has very recently there's a huge focus on AI in health. Not so recent also, but he already started that specialization course about AI in health with his students. And then he has started a fund very recently to specifically focus on things like ethics and compliance, these things in AI. So he is committed to that. And whenever you hear him talk, he is still such a humble person. And it's a very nice, positive vibe and encouraging vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
he really brings up the current issues in a very right form. Like, he right now he's, I think, at least last year he was trying to gather a movement around that in data science field. We all are so much model centric. Like, you keep on looking at papers and papers like, hey, you can, change this in model and you'll get a better accuracy. But he's like, the time has come for when industry needs to digest whatever the research has been going on, we need to go towards data centric approaches. And he really made it very loud. Like, if you are into this industry, I'm sure that you would have caught somewhere or other the discussions between being model centric versus data centric. So the kind of initiatives he brings into, and the fact that he's so open minded to share with every one of us, and that
Yeah.
that really makes it amazing. Like, he could be a really good professor and just have kept the knowledge up to himself, but he just made it accessible to everyone around the world. So that is very, very admirable.
Yeah, kudos to him. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, with that, I want to ask if there is any particular courses that can be helpful to our audiences. So maybe if you guys want to suggest anything.
Since my specialization was towards computer vision, I would start with that. There is CS231, Stanford CS231N to be specific. Anyone starting with computer vision, I think that's the course you should be looking into. Apart from that, of course, Andrew NGs and the entire specializations involving deep learning.ai are an excellent start. Uh, like, at least that's what I would suggest, and I'll hand it over to you, Anita.
Yeah, I have not done one recently, so I don't have names on top of the mind. But what you said around the deep learning, that was one of the early ones that I had seen when I was first looking into this field. And so I would say, just go and take a look, and you can go in the level you want. You can take some very beginner level, or you can take if you have already taken some courses, going to the next stage. They're all very good courses based on where you want to start.
Right. Okay, so we have a question from audience that could you explain a bit more about data-centric approach?
Yeah, so till now, what in theory, what you would read is that you have a given data set and you are trying to develop a model. So let's assume that you annotate the images, or you annotate and you create the data in the format what you need, and then you have the first pass through the model. After the first pass you get certain accuracy, and the idea there is that what you keep on doing is you keep on tweaking the models with, say, different hyperparameters. And this is more what I talk about is not about simple algorithms but a deep learning based model, that you have an extensive hyperparameter search, where often that you don't know whether you will reach the a local minima or you will reach the global minima. So what he suggests is, instead of keep on iterating over model again and again, it might be a better idea to dive deeper based on the output what you got or the results you got. Dive deeper into the data and see how you can modify the data. Or do you suppose that there is a class imbalance, then maybe the concept should be, the class which is not getting identified, maybe the number of samples are way too less and you add more data for that sample, rather than changing the model, because the model might be just right and it is just reflecting what your data, what you have provided. So it's like, as you say, like data in, data out, or garbage in, garbage out. So anything might be happening. So you should not be way too focused towards the model, but you should give an equal importance to the data itself. And personally, I might say sometimes even a lot more importance to data compared to the model, because the algorithms would be fine.
And we're getting to a state where, at least some of the areas, there are very mature models available, right? And I love that we have embraced more of the open source mindset. That is where the industry moves fastest, when you can get to all this open source community, open source mindset. So the trick now, the art now is getting that right data match for that. And well said.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so our next question is from Manan. He is asking, how much will it help if you get actionable data on which one can run data science models rather than spending time cleaning and pre-processing it?
You want me to take it?
Yeah, lead with it.
I would say that for me, I would always love to spend some time cleaning it and pre-processing it, because that gives me an insight on what the data is. And I like to give example of my master's thesis. So I was developing an object detection algorithm, and I have myself annotated almost 4,000 images. And as I was annotating them, I realized, oh, here the object is, not, it's not clear, or here it's getting blocked. And, maybe this is where my model could fail. These are the failure
Yeah.
cases. Since I annotated it myself, during the same time, what I was doing is I was keeping them in a separate folder. Oh, I want to use this as a test image because this is a very interesting use case. While of course it's not possible to do millions and millions of annotations on your own, but as a data professional, I would always say that spend some time with your data rather than outsourcing it, because you don't know the person who is annotating in the format what you want. And for that matter, I would like to even give example of the current director of Tesla, Andrej Karpathy. And yeah, that reminds me that Andrej Karpathy was the one who has created the CS231N course. And he's currently the director at Tesla. And there is this very famous data set of ImageNet, especially in image classification. And he sat down and annotated that entire data set. So when you look at the current benchmarks of those classification models, there is a line that this is where human stands and this is where the model is performing, and where the human stand is basically him doing it manually. So he's the human standard for that data set. So the
Nice.
point is that the
I
point
learned something
here
new, Hardi. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
the point being said that I would always say that whatever data it is, it might help when you have help to clean it and to look at it. But if you are the one developing the model, it's always a good idea to get an inside out insight of your own data, be it tabular data. I have worked with tabular data as well, or be it image data. The amount of insight the data can give you is enormous. Like, you can't compare it with like, your algorithms would be fine. A lot of times it's the data which is causing not getting the result what you want. So it's always a good idea to spend some time with data. So yeah, I won't say that that's the best of the task. Model development is way more interesting, but it is an equally important task, which you which should not be underrated.
Yeah, I
Right.
completely second you on that. And I'll tell you, working in this conversational AI space, just reading the customer's interaction gives you a very good insight into the what the customer wants also. So I always like the teams to have that first-hand experience, seeing those interactions, what it, to understand the problems better, so we solve them better. Um, uh, Trying to understand Manan's question in a different way at a enterprise level, I would still also appreciate if there are easy tools, that can help with like class imbalance problems and all. And now I see there are very good team tools coming out where you can get some more of that data cleansing done more automatically, or at least some flagging and all done automatically. So I would say, the future is hybrid. We would still want to do some of that ourselves so we don't lose
Yeah.
that direct feel. But just for a scalability perspective, having those tools do help. So if Manan, you're thinking of creating tools or some solutions around that, we would love to see those.
Okay. Uh, okay. We don't have any questions from audience, but I have one. That which are the things that grad school doesn't teach you? Maybe this question was like one of those things, but what are any other perspective to that?
Maybe productionalizing code. And I think that now that you are in the industry, and um, customer relationships, talking to them, those are soft skills which you only learn when you are in the industry. So soft skills is a different thing, but like, commenting it, like in grad school, the professors do tell you that comment it and send it, but uh, it's not as much as important as much as productionalizing in an industry tech environment, that this is going to get deployed and things should work out. And um,
Yeah.
that's never going to be part of grad school. And I still feel it should not be. Grad students have a lot of other things to learn into and not get into the stress of deployments. But yeah.
You bring very good points, Hardi. So around commenting. So I have had first-hand experience. Startups. When you start a startup, you're really stretched very thin. Resources are less, and you have to deliver very quickly. But very quickly, if you're successful, now you have to make sure that you can scale. Now, if you have code that one engineer understands and nobody understands, your full success and failure could depend on that. So commenting can be that serious.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you also, for enterprises and all, we do look for those, and they are very, very core component of coding skills.
Okay. Cool. And yeah, we have one more question, that how would you approach to work on data set with a lot of null values, especially when choosing a type of imputation becomes difficult?
Um, for me, I see a lot of value in this question, but my biggest answer would be it depends, and it depends on the data. It depends on imputation is difficult, but why it's difficult? Is it some kind of a medical data where you can't play around with things like working on some tabular data, which is, say, from a manufacturing company compared to working with a tabular data which is from a hospital, where if you make a mistake, you are risking lives, is a huge difference. So I understand imputation could be difficult, but what to do with those null value is totally depends on your use case, in my opinion.
Very, very
Right.
well said. The
Yeah.
cost of imputation, huh?
Uh, okay. There are more questions are coming, so I'm reading it. So, what is one thing you wish you knew as a graduate student that would have been really helpful professionally? I
I'll
think that's
defer
pretty,
I'll
yeah.
defer that to Anita first.
Yeah, my graduation was so way back, but I will agree with something you have hit on previously, Hardi, is about working in teams, and and that is why on my presentation I have that about all the different roles that come together. While doing the graduation. It is more the subjects, and that is how I have been. Even in my MBA, I'll tell you, I went to do the MBA only because I had switched from high tech to financial services. I'll tell you one thing that was the most profound for me from there was what my career counselor told me. And that was, she said one sentence: Anita, you may be the best person for a job, but you will not get it unless people know that you are out there. So I think this was one thing that I had never learned in any class. And I was a very classic introvert. Nobody agrees to that now anymore. But I would never talk unless it was for the work, right? And I have made conscious decisions to change that, to work on that. So that was one very, very helpful thing, which has then helped me a lot professionally. And that is why I admire what you all are doing, and I try to support whenever I can, in terms of joining calls like this. It's really good to have your community.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I would say I would just reiterate the story, what I already said. Me not finding an internship with everyone else finding it, I was way too tensed. Now that I think of it, like during that time, I went to like almost someone elderly, and I was cribbing about the fact that hey, I did not get an internship. And I still remember what the advice I was given, that you are almost in your mid 20s. You need to work till at least around 50 or 60, considering an average working. You have to work for next 35 to 40 years, and not getting a summer intern, which is just 3 months of your life, should not make you so sad. You would end up finding a job. There is a job for everyone. You have another 30, 40 years. You should not be, taking it so much to your heart on things like this. And while that is one example, but, during the grad school, I would say that, put your best effort, but getting an A minus compared to an A should not be your, heartbreaking kind of a situation in your life. And like, I would still say that that was the most important thing at my life at that given point of time. So it affected me so much. But now that I think through, I'm like, it should not have been such a huge matter. Like, I understand it seemed like a setback, but overall, it's fine.
Okay. Great. Okay. This was amazing session, and I would like to end it with our WIDS tradition, that let's take a selfie with audience. So audiences, if you can enable your camera, I would love to take a screenshot, and yeah, please go ahead and turn on your camera. Hey, hi Ashika. Great. Okay. Great. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining in. Okay, let's take a selfie. Smile, please. Yay. Great. I got it. Perfect. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Anita and Hardi, for giving such a wonderful advices and insights. And also, thank you so much, audiences, for your time. And stay tuned for the February month's data chat. We will be back soon. And enjoy your time.
Dhwani, if you can give me 1 minute, I would like to address Jalen's question over there, if you don't mind, very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I would say, doing the master or PhD, it is very much on you. As a hiring manager, I can tell you the evidences I'm looking for is, do you like to learn? Are you open to learning and the challenges of learning? And do you have experience from anywhere, like your own side project? Do you have a repo? So Hardi, you were talking about people asking coding questions that may not be relevant. So nowadays we look for your work that you have done, if that is relevant to the job description. I will tell you personally, I have often gone back for the degrees just because of one reason, because it takes a lot of discipline to do self-learning, and between work and home, I have found that I can start Coursera courses and sometimes never finish them. So I go and enroll in a college. I pay extra just for someone to keep me on my deadlines. But it's a case of what works for home.
Right.
I wanted to take that, but Dhwani, sorry to interject there, but thank you again. It was great chatting with you all, and
Yes.
hopefully we all stay connected. And
Yes. For
Thank
sure.
you.
For sure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Dhwani.
Hardi, and thank you, Dhwani, for organizing this.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the audience as well as Dhwani and Anita. It was a great interaction, and I'm glad to meet you.
likewise.
Mm,
Thank you all.
okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Have a
Bye.
great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye. Thank you.